learned from the Queen of Down syndrome and how it saved Princess P's life. So this is a follow-up from a video that I actually posted on Sunday featuring how we encourage the Queen of Down syndrome to eat such a diverse, diet. I am the Queen of Down syndrome's sister. The Queen of Down syndrome is 19 years old, and most of what I post on this channel is what I learned from the Queen of Down syndrome and how it could help you guys. So this one is a personal story, and I'm going to share it with you guys. So let's get started. So basically, Princess P was born with 1p36 chromosome deletion syndrome, which basically means she's missing part of a chromosome. And for the most part, she was a healthy child with, again, there were some health-related issues due to her disability. Now, past the 4-month mark, I started noticing things that were like, this just didn't sit right with me. Things that I noticed were the big one, her eating. She was not eating. Now we're talking about 4, 5, 6 months old and beyond, and I could not get her to take more than 4 4-ounce bottles. Now, if you know anything about babies, that is dangerous, and it affected her everywhere. She was sluggish. She was napping basically almost the whole entire day. Like, it was unbelievable. I was scared. I'm like, hey, I want to play with you, but you're just napping. I've taken her to multiple doctors, and they kind of brushed it off as, it's her diagnosis, it's this, it's that. And I'm like, no, there is something off. So I sat with myself, and I kind of went past, backward of at that point, 18 years of the Queen of Down syndrome. I said, I'm noticing for sure 2 health issues that the Queen of Down syndrome showed when she was an infant. And number 1, reflux, and number 2, she aspirated. Now, during that time period, Princess P started to lose weight. Babies need to gain weight. They do not need to lose weight. So now I'm panicking, and I took her to her doctor. And if you know anything about doctors, they're all brushing it off as, oh, she has a genetic disability, she'll be okay. And I'm like, no. My daughter is barely drinking 4 ounces of her bottle. We are at this point nearing in on her 1st year of life, and we've lost weight twice. Absolutely not. Now, the Queen of Down syndrome did struggle. She had really bad reflux, really bad aspiration, and struggled greatly with weight gain. So I'm like, no, Tiger Mom here. And I fought my way through the doctor into forcing them to give her a barium swallow. Now, if you know anything about eating disorders, especially in babies, it most of the time stems from trauma. Trauma number 1, she aspirated. She aspirated so badly that they put her on a level 2 thickened liquid. Fast forward 2 years, they had to up it to level 3. So yeah, her aspiration was pretty bad. Could you imagine being forced to drink a bottle and having it enter your lungs? It was so silent, the doctors brushed it off, and they were shocked. She was basically drowning herself. And a few more fights and a few more months later, they agreed to do an endoscopy, and they found out she refluxed. So you take this cute little baby, who's now a little bit over 1 year old, with a history of reflux and aspiration, and at that point, the doctor was like, start feeding her solids. Not happening. Not happening for 1 second. She would taste the food, she would cry, she would spit it out, and the doctor suggested a feeding tube. Now, I love feeding tubes. The Queen of Down syndrome has a feeding tube, and it's the best thing she's ever had. But I told the doctor, I said, listen, doctor, there's really nothing wrong with my child. She could chew, she could swallow. Let's try solids, let's try speech therapy, let's try nutritionist. We'll give it a good shot, and then we'll see what happens. So the doctor was like, okay, this was August. She was a little over a year, about 1.5 years. And the doctor said, okay, we'll address this, as a checkup by checkup basis, and we'll see where it goes. And I'm like really excited. I'm like, listen, the Queen of Down syndrome, when she started eating, her feeding disorder resolved itself. So we're going to try it. Tip, bad move. Anyway, so we head over to the first nutritionist, and I remember this. I was shaking after the appointment. I was practically crying. I get on the phone and I'm like, listen, so we figured out that Princess P likes to eat butternut squash. Now, I know butternut squash is, a low calorie food. So I figured if I added peas, now yellow peas have a higher calorie, and I'm going through like how I added calories to the foods that she was allowing in her mouth. Do you know how huge it was for her? She wouldn't allow it in her mouth. And I'm saying, and the therapist was like, no. Sorry, nutritionist, no. Only avocado. I'm like, what? I said, the kid probably has the feeding disorder. Could we like figure out a way to go with what she likes? No. Only avocado. Now, it was a phone consult, and we all know they have to be on the phone for an hour, and I'm listening to her berate me on how the only foods I should give Princess P was avocados. And I'm like, the Queen of Down syndrome is eating so many foods. We're not using this nutritionist again. So here I am, totally defeated. So go to early intervention, say, hey, guess what? This is my daughter. She's got an eating disorder. Let's try speech therapy. Now, the speech therapist would not listen to anything I said. It was horrible. She tried force feeding her, which I knew. Never. She tried, it was like so bad. Princess P's a vomiter. She would actually, one time, she was like in her mouth doing stuff. And I'm like, you know she's gonna vomit. And then she was like, no, she's not. Guess what? Princess P vomited, and the speech therapist got mad at me because the speech therapist didn't listen to, you guessed it, guys, me. So we ended up going through like 2 to 3 nutritionists. I call up her doctor, like, listen, weigh her again. At this point, it's near about a year, about 10 months. And Princess P still gained like maybe 1 or 2 pounds in 10 months. I'm like, okay, throw in the towel. Next August, put in the feeding tube. Like, I wasn't against the feeding tube. I was more like, well, let's give Princess P a shot at not having one, because why undergo surgery if you have all of the skills to eat? So she had her surgery, and of course you're not allowed to eat for 3-4 days. At that point she dropped the bottle, so we knew there was no more bottle feeds, and she was now about a year and 10 months by the time we had the surgery. And the one thing, like I said, is what I learned from the Queen of Down syndrome is give them what they want. So we had all of this trauma. Princess P refluxed, aspirated, and we found that actually this year her tonsils were so swollen she had trouble swallowing. So she had all in here trauma, and we were just like trying to feed her. So we didn't know about the tonsils at that point. But anyway, so the first thing that I did was learning from the Queen of Down syndrome. I was like, Princess P, whatever you want, you can eat. Now, let me tell you, her go-to food was chocolate lentils. And I said, I would never, but okay, have it for supper. And there were some nights I just presented chocolate lentils and she ate all of them. And there were some nights where she physically couldn't eat and she ate none of them. And there were some days she refused food for 3 to 5 days. I think the longest was, 5 days. And there were some days where she ate 1 chocolate lentil for each meal and that was it. And I just kept presenting chocolate lentils. I mean, obviously she was with me at the table. She had access to any food, but on her plate was her chocolate lentils. We wanted to get her onto a healthier diet because you cannot sustain yourself off of chocolate lentils. So learning from the Queen of Down syndrome was then I got her a divided plate of just 2. We actually took one of the Queen's lunch boxes, and I would put in chocolate lentils and something healthy, whether it be a cucumber, whether it be a banana. She was into tomatoes at that point, so always had access to her chocolate lentils and access to a healthier, nutritious option. Now, the one bonus about feeding tubes was I wasn't really concerned about her nutrition because she was getting her full day calorie through her feeding tube. So I would always present something, and also Princess P still doesn't walk. She's almost 3 years old as I'm filming this, and so she doesn't actually walk. So telling her to go get, pick food wasn't an option. So I would give her a plate, and I would always have the chocolate lentils at that point and something healthy. Now, of course, we wanted to get her onto a wider variety of diet, and let's fast forward to basically where we're holding today. Princess P, we are at the conversation how to decrease the calories in her tube feed. There was no way I could have imagined it. She's still not eating fully by herself, but listen to what she's doing. Right now, I can actually give her probably 2 different fruits, 2 different options of nutritious food in her plate. So that may look like a few slices of cucumber, a few slices of apple. In my plate, I will have everything. For example, one meal this week I had a barley soup with diced up veggies. Now I would actually pick out a few of the veggies while she's picking at her plate, and I'll actually attempt, I don't look at her because I don't want to put anxiety on the eating, and I'll try to plop in one or two, fruits, vegetables, something else, something cooked, something of a different texture. Sometimes chicken and beef. I can't believe we're at that level. Sometimes she'll chew it, sometimes she'll spit it out. But she's basically, I will say at this point in her journey, trying 100% of the fruits, vegetables, raw foods, and cooked foods that I eat and the Queen of Down syndrome eats. And what did I learn from the Queen of Down syndrome? Not to make eating fun per se, because hey, when I'm an adult, nobody makes eating fun for me. But I get to go shopping for myself, which Princess P doesn't. But she can choose. I will give her a choice of 2 or 3 fruits and vegetables, and she could choose. She's not forced to eat anything. At this point, actually, believe it or not, I can't even remember the last time she ate chocolate. I can't remember the last time she even asked for chocolate. It's there. She actually also has her own little food box of junk. And yeah, she actually, now that I think about it, it's been weeks before she asked for what you and I would consider junk. Her favorites are, at this point, apples and pears. In the past, it was cucumbers and tomatoes. She still does like cucumbers with lemon juice sometimes on it. And it's all because I made it all natural. I learned from the Queen of Down syndrome, just sit down, chill out, let her choose. And it is amazing. So yes, having raised the Queen of Down syndrome has kind of forced me to beg the doctors to see if she aspirated, which unfortunately she does, has forced me to ask the doctors if she has reflux, which unfortunately she does, and had forced me to take the pressure off of eating. And by nearly 3 years old, we have kind of overcame the stumbling block of a severe eating disorder, and we are on our way to discussing reduction of calories in the feeding tube, which will, I would say over the next few years, we're not there yet, allow her to be fully reliant on oral feeds, and that is huge. And had I have not had the Queen of Down syndrome to learn from, probably wouldn't be here having this conversation with you. I'd probably be force feeding her, shoving avocados in her mouth, and probably still be on the feeding tube because there was no way 4 4-ounce bottles a day was enough. If you have any questions on feeding tubes, nutrition, eating disorders, let me know, because unfortunately this is a huge part of my life, and what I shared with you is just this much of this. And if you have any tips or tricks, let me know in the comment box below, because you know what? We're all here to learn from each other. Thank you guys so much.